It's an automotive icon, a vehicle renowned for traveling the harshest terrains and the harshest climates all over the world and coming out victorious. This is the all-new, reborn Land Rover Defender. And as you can see, it's not all style and no substance. Land Rover has made this thing one of the most capable vehicles you can buy today on four wheels. So, let's see how it does out here in my favorite off-road spots outside of Los Angeles. First things first, the new Defender is stunning. I think they nailed that excellent blend of off-road readiness while likening it to other Land Rover models. There's definitely some shared Land Rover DNA, like in the grille, for example. But I mean, just look how aggressive this thing is. This is the shorter two-door Defender 90, which refers to the length of the wheelbase historically. You can also get a four-door 110, which, as you might guess, is quite a bit longer. But the 90 really is the way to go stylistically. This thing looks like a Matchbox car come to life, or like the ultimate Hot Wheels that you envisioned as a kid when you think off-roader. Before we get to driving the Defender, I want to continue our little walk around here and show you guys the interior, because just like the exterior, I think this is a massive win for Land Rover. Take, for example, the tech. We have a nice digital driver display that, depending on the drive mode down here, will show you different pertinent information. You can configure it. That's really nice. Same deal with the new Land Rover Pivi Pro infotainment system right below the camera down here. It's a mixture of buttons, knobs, and a touchscreen. It's a really nice system. Similarly, even though this is sort of a mid-level, not nearly fully equipped Defender, we have Meridian audio, which sounds quite nice. But I really want to focus on the rest of the interior, because that's where the magic happens. That's where they delineate Defender from the other Land Rover product lineup. So first things first, we have the materials. Now sure, there is leather in here, of course, as you'd expect from a Land Rover, but a lot of the materials, like on the dash and the door cards and even the seats, are made to get wet and dirty. They're not going to stain, which is really cool. And then there's this really interesting use of stone finish metal trim pieces, like here on the steering wheel and here on this bulkhead piece in the dash that's exposed as Defender in the script. It looks so nice. And when you combine that with elements like the door cards themselves, which have these, exposed rivets and color match trim to the exterior, it feels really special. That said, the Defender is interesting because it feels just as special from the back seats as it does from the driver's seat, which is uncommon. And let me show you what I mean. While getting into the backseat of the Defender is admittedly a bit tough with this two-door 90, because, between the pillar here and the driver's seat here, it's a bit tough. You need to be a bit flexible and have good knees. That said, with the driver's seat in my seating position, I'm 6'1". I have plenty of knee room and plenty of headroom back here, which is awesome, which means you can fit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in a pinch people in the new Defender 90. But it gets more clever than that, because this center console, you have your cup holders, your charging ports for your phone or whatever, also doubles as a jump seat. That's really cool. It means you can fit 6 people in here. But that's only the first of the Defender's party tricks, because in a nod to its off-road heritage, the back seat feels so special when you are off-roading or on the trail, because we have these safari windows up here on either side of the vehicle that let in natural filtered sunlight and give you a really cool perspective and view as you're driving along. It also helps that there's a ton of glass in the Defender, meaning outward visibility from every angle and every seat is fantastic. It's also helpful when parking this thing for perspective, because the 90 is so short and there is so much glass. Parking this thing even in downtown LA, where I have to parallel park all the time, is an absolute breeze. But I think the Defender's coolest party trick of all is actually the roof. Now, I mentioned the Pangea green paint with the white roof and how it pops and looks so cool. But if you look closely at this roof, It's actually a semi-convertible. This isn't a moonroof, this is 2 layers of fabric that can retract like a convertible top. And so if you are on a trail, you not only get this great view of the countryside in front of you, but at night you can pull this same party trick and see the night stars. And trust me when I say, it's an amazing perspective to be had back here. Like I mentioned, the Defender isn't just all style and no substance. This thing has some serious hardware at play. And since we're doing a bit of off-roading now, one of my favorite spots outside of LA, let's talk about some of the off-road hardware that you care about. In a nod to being a thoroughly modern Land Rover product, the new Defender does have independent suspension at all 4 corners with double wishbones. Thanks to an adjustable air suspension, this thing has up to 11.5 inches of ground clearance. And naturally, you can opt for all-terrain tires, which this test vehicle has. Just as impressive is the water crossing ability of the Defender, because this has traditionally never been a rock crawler like a Jeep Wrangler. This has been more of an ATV, the all-terrain overlanding vehicle. And Land Rover says this thing can do water crossings up to 3 feet in depth with no problem. In fact, one of the displays on this new Pivi Pro infotainment is a wade sensing mode that can estimate how deep of waters you're in. Oh, and don't forget a 2-speed transfer case in the middle and locking diffs. I mentioned before the drive modes, and in the Defender they actually do notably change the way this thing drives and handles, unlike a lot of vehicles. You have things like mud, ruts, rock crawling, water crossing, ice and snow, things like that. And that'll change the center locking diff, for example, or the adjustable ride height with the air suspension, though you can control that a la carte with a button. It also adjusts that transfer case and the power delivery. It's a pretty notable change. All this is to say, this thing has a ton of utility, and comparing it against the Jeep Wrangler, kind of our American standard off-road vehicle, depending on the way you configure your Wrangler, this could have more ground clearance or better approach and departure angles. So this thing is super competitive when the going gets tough. I take a lot of trucks and off-road ready SUVs up to that little trail spot we were just on, and I have to say the Defender was probably the most comfortable vehicle I've ever driven up there, and it really does do a great job of ironing out all the ruts in that pretty rough trail. And it's a similar story here on the pavement, because let's be realistic, even with these super fun off-roaders, most of their miles are going to be spent on the pavement. And part of that Defender legacy was the fact that it is the ATV. It could cross continents, and a big part of crossing continents is driving on the pavement. And fortunately, the Defender delivers here. Just like its modern Land Rover counterparts, the Defender can actually handle, which is a word that has never been in the repertoire of a Jeep Wrangler, that's for sure. There's this crazy sensation of when I turn the steering wheel, the front wheels actually turn with it. It's a really novel concept that Jeep owners no doubt have never been aware of, but it's great. It's no Miata or anything, but it really can handle pretty well on this little winding road. Even on these chunkier all-terrain tires, if you put the drive mode selector into comfort and knock this thing back down to the normal ride height selection, it actually glides down the interstate, for example, which is again something you can't say of a Jeep or a super off-road ready Bronco for that matter. It's quiet and comfortable even with the ragtop at higher speeds. Granted, the fuel economy, a sore spot for all these off-roaders, will suffer at higher speeds, but this thing will very happily cruise at Texas speed limit plus level speeds with no problems. It's funny, when people ask me about vehicles like the Jeep Wrangler, they're like, oh, it looks so cool, I'd love to drive one every day. And then, against my advice, they end up buying one and trying to drive it every day, and they realize that that off-road utility comes at the expense of on-road civility. Jeeps kind of just suck to drive. They're hilarious fun, for sure. I love like the Wrangler 392 with the big honkin' V8. It's so fun to drive. But as an everyday experience, it does just wear you out. You know, there's tons of road noise. The steering sucks, the brake sucks, the ride sucks, and there's none of that with the Defender. This is what everyone hopes a Jeep Wrangler is like till they actually drive a Jeep Wrangler. This is what you want. The powertrains are really good too. The standard engine is a 296 horsepower 2-liter turbo 4 that I've experienced in other Jag Land Rover products, and it is really nice. Super refined, really ample torque delivery, great engine. This Defender has the mid-level upgrade. It's a new powertrain to the Land Rover family of vehicles. Get this, it's a supercharged and turbocharged 3-liter straight 6 with a 48-volt mild hybrid assist system. It's a brand new engine, and being twin charged and a straight 6 and having mild hybrid assist, this thing has power for days. Land Rover says it produces 395 horsepower and 407 pound-feet of torque, which feels like it comes in instantaneously. The power delivery with this thing is insane. It does 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds. It's very, very quick for something so high riding. That said, if a mere 395 horsepower isn't enough for you, and trust me, it really, really is, Land Rover's confirmed they're also going to offer a V8 Defender. They're going to take the brand's absolutely insane 5-liter supercharged V8 that is in vehicles like the Jag F-Pace SVR that are reviewed on this channel and stuff it in the front end of the Defender. I cannot believe how insane that'll be to drive. Mercifully, they're going to detune it a bit because they know this short wheelbase Defender, throwing the full fat 550 plus horsepower at it would be insane. So they're going to tune it down to a really reasonable 517 horsepower. Regardless of the engine you choose, it will be paired to the ZF 8-speed automatic transmission, almost a ubiquitous choice now in the automotive industry. And just like every other brand, the ZF 8 is fantastic. It shifts really smooth when you want it to and really fast when you want it to. It's a really great transmission. As you might expect, all-wheel drive is standard in the Defender. No, not four-wheel drive. There's no knobs or buttons in here, which is a bit of an interesting choice, but as you can see, they have the sort of software and hardware at play where it doesn't matter. This thing is very, very capable. The only real sore spot, as you might expect looking at this thing, is the fuel economy. This thing is basically a really good looking box on wheels with chunky all-terrain tires, and with nearly 400 horsepower under the hood, MPG is not great. The EPA rates this thing at 17 MPG city, 22 MPG freeway, and 19 MPG combined. And driving around LA, I've averaged exactly 17 miles to the gallon. But do you really care? I mean, if you're buying a Defender, just like if you're buying a Wrangler or a Bronco or stretching it and getting into a Mercedes G-Wagen, do you care about the fuel economy? No, of course you don't. You are acknowledging it's not going to be good because you want something fun and awesome to drive around every day. Or as a weekend toy, in which case, yeah, go for it. This thing's great. The other elephant in the room is, unsurprisingly, price. It's a Land Rover. It's a premium product, as you might have been able to tell from my excitement looking at the way this thing drives, handles, and the way the interior feels and how special it feels. It is going to be more expensive than your run-of-the-mill Bronco or Wrangler. Prices start at 53 grand, which is a big ask. This test truck is 66 grand as equipped, and that awesome V8 Defender I mentioned a few minutes ago is 100 grand. And you may think, wow, that is a lot of money, and you are right. That said, it's about half the cost of a G-Wagen. And Wranglers are expensive too. There's just no way around it. They've gotten very, very expensive. I tested a Wrangler 392 with that big old V8 that's super, super fun, but that was almost a $90,000 Wrangler. And so when you consider the fact that this does ride and handle and drive and feel so much more nice every day than a Wrangler, you start to understand where the extra money went. With the reincarnated Defender, I think Land Rover has nailed it. It looks special, it feels special, it drives special, and it makes you feel special driving it, which is not that common. Only a few vehicles on the road can really do it in the way this thing does. If you're in the market for an everyday off-roader, you're doing yourself a disservice by not going and test driving one of these things. Alright guys, I think that's all I got for this one. My name is Jake, you've been watching Drive, Brake, Fix, Repeat, and I'll see you guys next time where I go do more fun things with cars. Bye. Deep ruts.